The Philippine Commission on Women, the national machinery for gender equality and women's empowerment. Indeed, for 47 years, the Philippine Commission on Women, or the PCW, has been instrumental in empowering every Juana to embrace their rights to chances, choices, and changes. PCW's story began in the International Women's Year when then-President Ferdinand E. Marcos issued Presidential Decree No. 633, which created the National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women. It is the Philippine government's response to the United Nations call for member states to put up a government system that will attend to women's concerns. Holding the distinction of being the first national women's machinery in Asia, the Commission was mandated to review, evaluate, and recommend measures to ensure the full integration of women in development efforts. In a milestone move, the Commission organized the Balikatan sa Kaunlaran in 1977. Claiming a close to 3 million membership of women leaders, the program focused on education and livelihood to address the problem of poverty by expanding the roles of women in economic, social, and political activities of the nation. The year 1981 sparked a new beginning. The Philippines ratified the UN Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, known as the International Women's Bill of Rights, or CEDAW. CEDAW is the only human rights treaty which affirms the reproductive rights of women and targets culture and tradition as influential forces shaping gender roles and family relations. In 1986, the new NCRFW officials focused on making the government work for gender equality and women's empowerment. Under a strategy called Gender and Development, or GAD mainstreaming, the government and the entire bureaucracy must make sure that the laws, policies, programs, and projects address gender issues. The new administration opened the door for other women NGOs and other groups across the political spectrum. Laws and policies related to women were issued. These include Republic Act 6725, which eliminates discrimination in the workplace, Proclamation No. 227 Series of 1988, providing for the observance of the Women's Role in History Month every March, and Republic Act 6949, declaring March 8 of every year as a working special holiday to be known as National Women's Day. In 1989, President Corazon C. Aquino signed the Executive Order 348, or the Approval and Adoption of the Philippine Development Plan for Women, 1989 to 1992, serving as the government's blueprint for involving women in development processes. Another milestone during this term was the enactment of RA 7192, or the Women and Nation Building Act. It recognized and promoted women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building. The third term of the Commission built on the gains of the previous term and set the systems for GAD mainstreaming. The 30-year Philippine Plan for Gender-Responsive Development was adopted, becoming the Bible of gender mainstreaming in the bureaucracy. The PBGD was the country's main vehicle for implementing the 1995 Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, or BPFA, adopted at the UN Fourth World Conference on Women. PBGD outlines all the ways that the government must adopt to enable women to participate in and benefit from national development. Another win in the advocacy was the institutionalization of the GAD budget policy in 1995. This mandated all government agencies and instrumentalities, including LGUs, to allocate a minimum of 5% of their total budget for GAD programs and projects. To monitor how gender-responsive the government is becoming, the Commission initiated the development of the Gender Mainstreaming Evaluation Framework or GMEF to measure the extent of gender mainstreaming efforts. As changes were introduced, GAD supporters also increased. At the turn of the new millennium, the Commission established regional GAD resource centers, thereby expanding the network of gender advocates. GAD capacity building and the development of tools and systems for GAD mainstreaming continued in the fourth term of the Commission. The mission: alleviate poverty by making sure that government efforts are felt by women at the grassroots level. During its fifth and sixth term, the Framework Plan for Women intensified the implementation of the GAD budget policy, focusing on women's economic empowerment, human rights, and gender-responsive governance. The succeeding years saw the protection of women in black and white. From 2001 to 2004, landmark laws were passed, including the Republic Act 9262 or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004 and the Republic Act 9208 or the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003. And in 2009, a triumph for Filipino women. Republic Act No. 9710 or the Magna Carta of Women was signed. The MCW expanded the functions of NCRFW and changed its name to the Philippine Commission on Women. During the same term, the Great Women Project, supported by the Canadian government, was established to boost women's economic empowerment and to provide more opportunities to women in small and medium enterprises. More aspects of GAD gained traction in the sixth term of the Commission. During this term, momentous laws were enacted, including the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Law, the Batas Kasambahay Law, the repeal of the Night Work Prohibition, the expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2012, which increased the government's capacity to combat human trafficking, and RA 10398 declaring November 25 as the National Consciousness Day for the elimination of violence against women and children. In 2014, the PCW launched the Women's Empowerment, Development and Gender Equality Plan or WEDGE 2013 to 2016, becoming an opportunity to review persistent and emerging gender issues and to take this into account in government plans. Other significant programs were also hatched, such as the National GAD Resource Pool, the Gender Mainstreaming Monitoring System, the establishment of regional GAD mechanisms and local learning hubs, and the MCW Implementation Project, supported by the Spanish International Development Cooperation. In the seventh term of the Commission, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte called for the full implementation of the Magna Carta of Women down to the barangay level in his 2016 and 2017 State of the Nation address.
I'd like to reiterate my personal and this administration commitment to fully implement the Magna Carta of Women to the barangay level.
During this term, more trailblazing legislations were inked, including Republic Act 10906 or the Anti-Mail Order Bride Law, Republic Act 11210 or the 105-Day Expanded Maternity Act, and Republic Act 11313 or the Safe Spaces Act. But while PCW introduced changes outside, it also improved internal mechanisms. Towards the end of 2019, after rigorous training and consultations, the PCW received its ISO 9001:2015 Quality Management Systems or QMS certification. The Commission was ready to face the new decade, ISO certified, motivated, and unfazed. But in 2020, the world was put in a halt due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Resilient and undaunted, the PCW workforce took the global challenge as an opportunity to adapt and innovate. Keeping up with the new normal, the PCW transitioned from face-to-face to online activities. The PCW introduced the GAD webinars, discussing GAD-related concepts, mandates, framework, tools, and procedures online. The historic first GAD webinar series saw a total of 2,367 participants, with the videos gaining over 100,000 views in 2020. With its success, the PCW carried on with the series in 2021, launching webinars on GAD concepts and SOGIESC, fundamentals of gender mainstreaming, gender analysis, tools and praxis, use of the Hagadaga to mainstream GAD elements, GAD planning and budgeting, and the GAD agenda. In line with its mandate under the Magna Carta of Women, the PCW ensured that government agencies are still capacitated on gender mainstreaming. From 2020 to 2021, the PCW responded to numerous requests for technical assistance. These led to orientations on gender analyses and GA tools, new trends and policies on gender mainstreaming, laws on women, GAD agenda development, capacity development, as well as validation sessions for the GAD training programs. The Commission is also hands-on in bringing the gender equality and women's empowerment or GEW advocacy in the grassroots with the help of the Regional Gender and Development Committees or RGADCs, orienting them on the gender-responsive LGUs or Girl Tool, GAD Agenda, GAD Budget, and GMEF, and virtually gathering the Gender Focal Point System members. Also strengthening the local GAD resource program, it monitored and evaluated 12 certified GAD local learning hubs in 2020. And in 2021, mounted its first GAD LLH virtual assembly, featuring inspiring local experiences and GAD-related innovations that LGUs can replicate. The PCW likewise helped key implementing agencies navigate their way in integrating gender lens in their programs through proactive technical assistance. From orienting them on the gender mainstreaming evaluation framework, training them to develop their GAD agenda, to conducting consultations towards collaborations. The Commission worked double in mainstreaming gender in sectors severely hit by the pandemic, economy, and education. The PCW sat down with key agencies in a roundtable discussion to educate women micro-entrepreneurs in government initiatives on information and communications technology, especially with the pandemic changing the digital commerce landscape. Whether online or face-to-face, the PCW aims to influence efforts towards a gender-fair education sector. It consulted with movers and key officials in the education sector and trained curriculum developers on gender sensitivity as well as the GAD framework development. The PCW also boosted its ties with various agencies to strengthen gender mainstreaming in key sectors. It signed deals with the Philippine National Police, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, geared towards integrating gender in peace and security and environmental concerns. Other milestone agreements include partnering with the National Youth Commission and the Local Government Academy. PCW's efforts did not go to waste, with gender perspectives becoming part and parcel of government programs. In 2020, the PCW reported that 19 out of 30 agencies validated have improved performance in gender mainstreaming. Aside from fulfilling its mandate as an oversight agency even amidst the challenging circumstances, PCW also continues to push for policies towards gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. Legislative measures PCW has actively lobbied for saw movements in the Congress in 2021, including bills on raising the age of sexual consent in rape cases and prohibiting child, early, and forced marriages. Working on the Women's Priority Legislative Agenda for the 18th Congress, the PCW reviewed and prepared position papers and joined congressional hearings and technical meetings to advocate for the integration of gender perspective on bills and resolutions. And to guide legislators, PCW also launched the How to Be a Gender Responsive Legislator or HGRL Handbook in partnership with the House of Representatives. This serves as a handy reference to legislators and staff, bill drafters, technical staff of legislative bodies, and GAD advocates in promoting and developing gender-responsive legislative measures. Determined to guide stakeholders, the PCW also issued policies from 2020 to 2021, taking into consideration the effects of COVID-19 in gender mainstreaming, including circulars on GAD Plan and Budget and GAD Accomplishment Reports, Joint Statement on Gender-Based Violence in Times of COVID-19, and Joint Memorandum Circular on the Localization of the Safe Spaces Act. Despite the pandemic, the PCW reviewed and endorsed GAD plans and budgets and reviewed GAD accomplishment reports. A welcome and handy tool for agencies in their submission is the online system Gender Mainstreaming Monitoring System or GMMS. Aside from giving online training on how to use this, PCW also released a video tutorial to help stakeholders navigate the GMMS with ease. The COVID-19 pandemic also forced PCW to take a second look at the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Plan 2019 to 2025. Consulting agencies, it updated the GEWE plan to reflect the gender issues that emerged or are exacerbated by the pandemic and how these can be addressed. Even with travel restrictions, the PCW conquered the distance by organizing and joining international sessions. It led the Philippines' participation to the 64th and 65th sessions of the UN Commission on the Status of Women. With all its local and international engagements, the PCW spreads the word on GAD through its online platforms, continuously adapting with the changing times. In 2020, the PCW relaunched its website with a fresh new look. Compliant with the existing government mandates, the site is more accessible, mobile-friendly, packed with added features and content. Furthering its digital transformation, it also revamped its digital GAD library in 2021. The new platform allows for open and free access to a vast collection of GAD resources. True enough, the PCW utilizes all platforms and modes to spread the GAD advocacy, and one effective way? Music. The PCW launched the Juanas songwriting contest in March 2021, which aimed to reintroduce the 12 areas of concerns under the Beijing Platform for Action through songs. Over 200 entries received. The contest resulted in the collection of 8 powerful new anthems for gender equality. The PCW is also harnessing the power of different types of media in its major advocacy campaigns. For the 2020 and 2021 18-day campaign to end violence against women, the PCW used a puppet series to discuss anti-vow laws.
Na walang paalam sa biktima. O kaya yung walang pahintulot na pag-record at pag-share ng mga litrato o video.
Huwag mong titigan ang hindi sa'yo at maging disenteng tao.
The Do the Macho Choir Challenge to raise awareness on catcalling. With the digital new normal, the PCW reached more participants and engaged them in the online talakayan towards vow-free barangays, providing a platform for them to ask about laws protecting their rights. The PCW spotlighted on one particular law in 2021, the Safe Spaces Act. Jump-starting a long-term awareness campaign, the PCW distributed materials on the law to different provinces and cities all over the country. But aside from campaigning against VOW, the PCW also provided referral services to survivors. With partners, it is also assessing the implementation of the Republic Act 9262, coordinating with the Interagency Council on Violence Against Women members, mapping available VOW services and facilities for women victim survivors, and involving male advocates opposed to VOW. The PCW also used its major campaign, the National Women's Month celebration, to highlight women's participation in battling the pandemic, as well as discuss gender issues during this crisis. With the Juanas Laban sa Pandemya Kaya online series, it featured women's experiences during the health crisis and featured women who thrived despite the circumstances. It also celebrated the ones and Juanas that make up the commission. During PCW's 45th and 46th anniversary celebrations, we heard stories from the pillars of PCW sharing wins achieved through passion for the cause of women. We showcased the commission's gains throughout the years and honor the employees that contributed to these achievements. Steered by its directors, chairperson, and board of commissioners, the commission will remain true to its core values of passion for excellence, professionalism, integrity, teamwork, and accountability. As the national machinery for gender equality and women's empowerment, the PCW was and will always be a harbinger of change, despite the pandemic and other roadblocks along the way. The PCW is driven and proven, soaring higher towards its golden year.